So we'll do that. And you probably all know Al. Al is kicking off our series here this morning for the month of July, spending quiet times together. And I'll just have to reminisce a little bit before I let him uh, tear off here. But I met Al in 1984 in the jungles of Costa Rica. He he came down there and picked me out, and I didn't have a bone in my nose at that time or a grass skirt, but I was pretty close to it, I guess. So anyway, came on down and did a conference for missionaries that we had, and he was there with Kip McKean. He was there with George Gerganis, and the thing that I appreciated most from our very first encounter was his attention to the lost, and to have him come in and share about discipleship with us with these guys was a pretty radical idea back then, still is. And anyway, the first encounter, we were just chatting, and he was dragged away by Phil Lamb to go have a Bible study with someone that Phil just met. And my breath was taken away. I thought, wow, that's an elder who is evangelistic. I want to know more about this person. And it also helped that he was from Texas as well. And anyway, later in life, he gave me some great advice, some of it comical. As we reflect back on it, I remember asking him, Al, do you think I ought to have 11 children? He said, well, Bart, you may want to think about that a little bit. So, uh, and then we also had just a wonderful chapter of work together with K&N. We worked together to produce these videos and movies, and awards were won. And anyway, on every birthday, every anniversary, he manages to remember where I am and finds me and wishes me happy birthday. He's just been a mentor. He's been a great elder in my life. And Al, I'm just super grateful that you'd spend this time with us this morning. So, Al, thank you for sharing. And we'll let you go for it, my friend.
All right. Well, we've already had a few glitches here, and so we'll just wing it today. Um, in thinking about what I wanted to share today, it's a little bit unusual because this whole program, as I understand it, is directed toward uh, taking care of our kids, boys specifically, but. Uh, Something happened recently that has sort of shaped my thinking lately. I have a very good friend in Tucson who, a few months ago, doctors diagnosed cancer in him, and he now has a few months to live. Uh, a number of years ago, in LA, Gloria and I went. Gloria and I were huge country and western fans, and so we went to a concert at the Staples Center with Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, which was one of the best concerts that I ever went to. And of course, I'm a great fan of his and hers. But she sang for an hour, he sang for an hour, and then they sang for an hour together. But one of my favorite songs of his, and I'm going to have Bart play it here in just a moment. I had a video of it, but we didn't figure out how to get the sound and the audio going at the same time. But it's called "Live Like You Were Dying," which is sounds a little morbid, but it's not morbid at all. I think when you understand the whole song. So, Bart, if you would just play that now.
You bet. Let me ask one more time for someone. Martin, do you happen to know how you can play an audio or a video and have the audio on Zoom?
Yeah, do you want to set chat the link of the video and then I can if you have it, just chat it and then I can play it.
Put it in the chat, you say?
Yeah.
Okay, let me dig it up here real quick. So we may be saved after all, Al. Live like you are dying.
Good to see you, Al.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And
Ranger, one promise to help your workplace safe and sound.
all right, so back at Zoom here, boom, chat, and then paste it.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
all right.
I see it. Yep. Let me see if I can do that. Share, share sound, and then
How come I don't see myself on the list of videos of everybody?
Probably just your view, Terry.
let me see here.
Can you guys hear that?
Got it.
Awesome.
He said I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me when a moment came that stopped me on a dime. I spent most of the next days looking at the x-rays, talking about the options and talking about sweet time. I asked him when it sank in that this might really be the real end. How's it hit you when you get that kind of news? Man, what'd you do? And he said, I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. He said I was finally the husband that most of the time I wasn't, and I became a friend would like to have. And all of a sudden going fishing wasn't such an imposition, and I went 3 times that year. I lost my dad. Well, I finally read the good book, and I took a good long hard look at what I'd do if I could do it all again. And then I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I've been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. Like tomorrow was a gift, and you got eternity to think about what you do with it. What did you do with it? What did I do with it? What would I do with it? Skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu, and I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I dying. To live like you were
Beautiful.
All right. Now, can I get on the screen now?
Sure.
We're done
You
with
got it.
fewer resources, you're not alone. Imagine this. You're editing a video that comes out in just a few.
Okay, let me get on share here. Um, and okay, here we go, I think. What I want to do, first of all, is those lyrics, there's some very meaningful things in those lyrics. And so I just want to reread the lyrics here for us because obviously in the video you don't catch it all. But there's some very powerful things. So here are the lyrics basically. He said, I was in my early 40s with a lot of life before me. When a moment came that stopped me on a dime, I spent most of the next days looking at the x-rays and talking about the options and talking about sweet times. I asked him when it sank in that this might really be the real end. How did it hit you when you get that kind of news? Man, what do you do? And he said, I went skydiving, I went Rocky Mountain climbing, I went 2.7 seconds on a bull named Fu Manchu. And I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I'd been denying. And he said, someday, I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. He said, I was finally the husband that most of the time I wasn't. And I became a friend would like to have. Well, I finally read the good book, and I took a good, long, hard look at what I'd do if I could do it all again. And I loved deeper, and I spoke sweeter, and I gave forgiveness I'd been denying. And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. Like tomorrow is a gift. What will I do with it? And he said, someday I hope you get the chance to live like you were dying. So in thinking about some of those things that are lines in the song, that really are pretty powerful lines when you think about it. It reminded me of a verse that I've never heard a sermon on, from Psalm chapter 90 and verse 12. It says, teach us to number our days, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. You know, obviously we have a lot of ways of numbering our days. I just had my 85th birthday. So birthdays are ways of numbering our days. Phases of life are a way of numbering our days. But I think it's a deeper thought here than just those traditional type things. Enough so that this psalm, by the way, was the first of the psalms that was written, and it was by Moses. But Moses says, teach us to number our days. And so I think that we need to, it takes an effort to really look at where we are in life and what it really means. And the whole purpose is that we can gain a heart of wisdom so we can be smart about how we're using our days. And I've got a question I want for all of you to think about for a minute here. It sounds morbid, but it's not when you really think about it. And the question is this. If you only had 30 days to live, what would you do? Assuming that it was not, you were not sick during that time, you were totally well, but you knew that your life would end in 30 days. What would you do with your life? What would you do differently than you're doing right now? I want you to think, we're not going to share on this, But I want you to stop and think about that just a moment and ask yourself the question, if I had 30 days starting today, what would I do with my life? Think about that for a minute or two. Okay, then from that perspective, looking at some of the lines of the song that he talks about that he did and that we can do, the first thing he says, he loved deeper. And a verse that comes to my mind in this is in 1 John chapter 3, verse 18, that says, "Dear children, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth." You know, talk is cheap. We can even say, "I love you." We probably at church, we give hugs and say, "Bro, I love you," or "Sister, I love you," or whatever. But sometimes those are just words. But the real matter that counts is that when it goes beyond the words, that it's filled with actions. And this is where it's so important with our family, with your wife, with your kids, with your sons, with your daughters. Speech with actions, but not just actions, because sometimes our actions are worldly or the wrong motivations, but actions that are in truth, according to the Bible, according to what God wants. And of course, a passage that we're all familiar with is John 13, 34, and 35. A lot of us have memorized that one. Jesus says, "A new command I give you. Love one another as I have loved you. So you must love one another. By this, everyone will know that you're my disciples if you love one another." And this is really, I think, the main impact on our kids is not so much what we say, not even what we teach, but how we love. And loving like Jesus loved. One of the most difficult counseling appointments that I ever had, and this was many, many years ago. It was a husband and wife together that I really loved a lot with their teenage son who was having some major problems. But I still remember in that counseling appointment, he looked at his mom and dad and said, "There is nothing in your life that I want." I thought they were a loving couple. I thought they were, but I was shocked to see somehow they had failed to communicate that love in the way that Jesus would have loved. And he didn't want anything in their life. So tragic for us to pour our lives into our kids and them to turn around at the end and saying, "I don't want to be like you. I don't want a marriage like you. I don't want a religion like what you have," whatever. But it all goes back ultimately to the way that we love, and do we love like Jesus? Then another line in the song was, "I spoke sweeter." Now that doesn't sound very masculine to talk about speaking sweeter. But in terms of what our wife thinks and what our kids think, speaking sweetly does matter a lot. And when I think of this, a verse that comes to mind, and Gloria and I used to call this the golden rule of communication, that Paul says in Ephesians chapter 4. It says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs." You know, I think this is a real test. I know it was a test for me with our girls growing up. We have 3 daughters, and they're all in their 50s now. But I remember when we were growing up, if I could have changed one thing in my parenting, it would have been my tone of voice. I would speak in a way sometimes that came across with anger. I didn't feel the anger so much, but I was, I still have journals that we wrote back then. That was back in the 80s. But I was reading a journal the other day from, I think, in 1982. And my middle daughter, I was trying to help her with her math. And in the journal, I wrote down, Christy cried because of my anger and my frustration. She wasn't getting it, but to me, what was so simple was not simple to her. And I came across with a tone that made her cry. And she was not the only one. We sort of joke with our three girls today about my tutoring abilities with them and my frustration. But I'm so ashamed at the times that I came across with anger or frustration. I wish I could go back and change that a lot, because I know that those tones hurt them. Those tones sometimes that I use with Gloria that I wasn't even aware of would hurt them. And so the talk that we use, the way that we use it, that we build one another up, that's the goal. But it has to be according to their needs, not our needs. And then he talks about giving forgiveness that he said that he had been denying. And when I think about this, there's no better example to me than Jesus on the cross. It still blows my mind when Jesus said on the cross, looking back on all that had happened there and setting up in his trials and his beatings and his crucifixion, he could say, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. That to me is the ultimate in forgiveness. How Jesus could forgive all the people, all the curses, all the beatings, all the treating harshly and unloving, and even turning their backs on and swearing, I don't even know the man, Peter. Jesus could say, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing. And the final thing that I want to mention here, where he says, I was finally the husband that most of the time that I wasn't. You know, I think this probably has the biggest impact on our kids than anything we do, is what they see in our relationship with our wife and the hopefully loving relationship that we have. And of course, I'm reminded of Ephesians chapter 5, verses 25 through 28, where he says, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy and blameless. In the same way, husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife, loves himself. I think that to me, the biggest joy in life, at least for Gloria and me, was our relationship with each other. Next to Christ, we treasured that relationship. And you know, this idea of living like you were dying, actually, we lived a part of that, because after we were been married 51 years, Gloria ended up with some fluid around her lung. And so we went to the doctor, and actually then went to an oncologist that specialized in lung cancer, because the fluid was around the lung, and that was the first indications were that. And so I remember asking the oncologist that if this, and he said, I don't know if it is lung cancer, we'd have to confirm that. But I said, if it is lung cancer, how long do we have? And he said, probably a year. Right. And you know, I wish I hadn't even asked that question then. It was a shock. But we went home, and that night we both woke up at 3:00 in the morning, both of us holding each other and crying. And we said, if we only have a year, we're going to make it the best year of our life. And fortunately, it wasn't just 1 year. We had 6 years together. I lost Gloria almost 7 years ago, but we had 6 years to go together. And I can honestly say it was the best 6 years of our marriage because we knew that we only had a short time and we were going to make it count. And so we didn't get upset with each other. We loved each other. We treated each other the way we wanted to be treated. And in the sense, it was a blessing that truly the song here, Live Like You Were Dying, took on a new meaning to us because we tried to make each day count. And so I'm going to leave this with you. One of the things that I now encourage, and we started doing this then, but Hebrews 3, we're familiar with Hebrews 3:13, that talks about encouraging one another daily. And one of the things about encouragement in general, we don't encourage people by accident. You encourage people when you think about, how do I encourage this person? And so what I would encourage all of you to do is, first of all, make this as a goal. Every single day, you're going to encourage your wife. But also every single day, you're going to encourage each of your kids. I guarantee you that will make a huge difference in the relationships that you have with one another. So I've thrown a lot of things out here, but I'm going to just leave it there, and I'll leave it to Bart. Any comments that you may have on this, on our thoughts together? Live like you were dying. Bart?
Brother, thank you so much. What a wealth of just heart topics here. And I'm especially drawn to the counseling appointment that you had where the boys said, there's nothing in your life that I want. And it just brings tears to my eyes. And yeah, I just know how much you encourage me, even though we don't get very much time together. I just know who you are, and that's a great encouragement. And so thank you, Al. Let's just go ahead and open it up for people to share or even questions. Here's a man who has much life experience, and we don't get that very often. So I yield my time.
Al, I appreciate the song and appreciate so much your thoughts here. I could relate to most everything you shared. And Bart, I'm glad you recorded this.
Yeah. Thanks, Dave.
Hey, I'll share. Thank you, Al. And what was funny when I was listening to the song, I know you a few years back you had actually did skydive. So I was thinking of you jumping out. I was thinking of you jumping out of the plane as that song was
I only did that because my youngest daughter wanted me to go with her on her birthday. That was not one of my goals. So, and one and done. I will not do that again.
Yeah.
That's the biggest adrenaline rush I've ever had in my life.
But no, thank you so much, Al, for that. I think, yeah, I mean, wouldn't we be so much better if we did have that same mentality, right? And live like it was our last day, right? And do the things that we know in our heart that we want to do, but we don't, right? And yeah, so just thank you for that.
Thanks, Martin. Couple more.
Yeah, I thank you too. I really appreciate it. I been around the church for a long time as well, and heard a lot about you, Al, throughout the years, and I never really met you personally. So it's good to actually hear you speak. And on a similar note, my wife is a lung cancer survivor. She's had part of her lungs removed, and currently in remission. So we're definitely
Great.
grateful for that. But yeah, and like when you first hear it, it's like it's eye-opening, and unbelievable and everything else, and to live like you're dying is challenging because unless you have an ailment of some sort, it's kind of a interesting predicament to put yourself in. But I guess you can try and emulate, the way you think you might. But to maintain that, I guess, is what I'm saying is challenging. And I try and do a lot of the things you talked about. Obviously, I'm not perfect at it by, telling my wife I love her every day and kiss her. But I think what you're saying is, do other things that encourage her, and so I'm going to work on that as well as my kids.
Great.
Thank you all.
Terry is a trash talking, pickleball playing, take no prisoner kind of a guy. He's a good friend.
It looks like you look like you could go on Fu Manchu.
Fu Manchu, the bull.
We went to a country western concert in my little town of Tacoma, and they had one of those automatic bowls. And I thought, man, if I sat on that, I'm going to jack up my back, so I ain't getting on it. But I appreciate the comment, Bart.
Yeah. One more, and we'll let out and all you guys go. Anybody else? Well, again, this has just been an amazing blessing to me, Al, to have you with us, and just absolutely appreciate your example and mentoring in my life. And just want to say that for tomorrow, we have this Michael Hendricks. He's over in Boulder, author of the book, The Other Half of Church. He's going to dial in with us at the same time. And I just appreciate getting together with you guys. This really is an amazing thing I look forward to. For the past 3 years, we've done this, and it's just very encouraging to share my quiet time and other quiet times with you guys. So anyway, have a great day. Thanks so much again, Al. Appreciate you guys showing up.
Guys, it's great being with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Al. Thank you, Art, or Bart.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Yeah,
guys.
Bart.
Thank you, Bart. Thank you, Al. Appreciate
Have a
it.
great day.
Thanks for your thoughts. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.